Hello, let me check. Yeah, I think everything is good. It's a sunny day, so I wanna welcome you all in the castle where I am right now, in the heart of the beautiful medieval city of Ghent. And it's I see already the first people that are getting inside or joining this stream. So look at this. Um, Quite sitting here. I'm got in. Yeah, that's really good. That's really good. And I'm hearing the church bells chiming, so that means that it's 4:30, 4:30 over here in Ghent, and I'm welcoming you in the Gravensteen Castle. And most of you, of course, know me already. If not, very short introduction. My name is Stefan, normally guiding in the Netherlands, but today in the and hi all, today in the city of Ghent, and I'm gonna do a beautiful tour of the castle over here, a beautiful medieval castle called Gravensteen, or the stone castle of the count, if you translate it. So and yeah, you just came in on time. Of course, you can always watch this back later because it's Facebook Live, but then you cannot answer. Then you cannot ask any questions anymore, or you can ask questions, but I will not answer directly. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take you through the castle, and it's really a beautiful thing to a beautiful place to see. Also, sometimes a scary place to see, but you will see that later. And it's also good to know this is Facebook Live, so that means with Facebook Live that sometimes sometimes no, there's always a little delay. And the delay is about 25 seconds. So that means at the moment that you're asking me a question, then it can take 25 seconds before I'm answering. So it's not that I'm very slow. It's just a delay in a delay in Facebook. So, and we will go inside the castle. I did a trip myself before to see if I have. And welcome, Sue. Also, you see, Sue. It's maybe a minute later after you said that you found it accidentally. No, we're going inside. I did a demo myself to see if I have everywhere the good connection with the phone signals, and as far as I can see, it's good everywhere. So hopefully you're ready to go with me into the castle. So I was sitting here a little. It's a very sunny day. It's a beautiful day. This morning it was, and welcome all of you. I see several people, also even from Australia. So look already at the back from where I'm standing. So standing next to this amazing castle in the heart of Ghent. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna change the screen so I can show you exactly what I'm seeing, and I'm gonna tell you a little more about what we see. So let me change the screen to the other side, and then we see stones and stones and stones, a lot of stones, really a lot of stones, because we are in the castle that's called the Gravenstone, and Graaf is the Dutch word for the count. So the count, the stone castle of the count, and this is one of the oldest medieval castles that can be found in Belgium. It's built in 1180, so 900 years old, and in a typical medieval style. And here in Ghent, you have to imagine that it was already a trading city around the year 900, starting from the year 900, and more people were starting to live here, so they were making a lot of money. And then, of course, there was the Count of Brabant at that moment, and he thought, oh, this is getting a richer and richer city, so this should be mine. So he captured the city, and good afternoon for the people that are just joining. He captured the city and took over the city. And yeah, as a count, of course, you wanna profit a little from all the money that is made. So what he started doing is taxing the people from Ghent quite heavily, quite heavily. So when you can imagine that the people in Ghent over here, they really didn't like it. They don't like to pay so much taxes to their to the man in charge. So what he did is to scare them. To scare them, he built this amazing castle over here. So just to show, okay, don't fuck with me. And the place over here became the center of the power, and for about 200 years, the counts were living over here in this castle. And I'm gonna take you inside. I'm gonna take you inside. So we're starting here on the courtyard in front of the building that we see where they actually lived, and that means that I've been getting inside already. And nowadays it's not so hard anymore. And yes, Marie, Beth, this is Kent. Uh, Nowadays it's not so hard to get inside the castle anymore. But imagine in the old days, you only could go inside over here if you were invited by the count. So he said, okay, you can come in. And for the most of the people, they were not allowed to get inside. So and yeah, then the other way is to try to capture the castle, but that's quite hard. Look at all the stones. Look at the walls. There's water around it. There's several rows of stones, so that was not very easy to get inside. So, but I made it already into the courtyard, and we're now getting inside over here, taking the stairs over here, and it's even nowadays in a quite beautiful. It's still quite beautiful. So of course, with this kind of old buildings, they restored it several times, but still, big part is in the old state. So okay, I captured the castle. Yeah, I captured the castle, but I'm not inside completely yet because you have to imagine that in the time, let's say in 1300, 1400, if you were here, then you were still not inside yet because you have to look up and then look at the top of the castle. You can see all these hatches. And these hatches, yeah, normally there were soldiers standing over there. And what they were at this moment when I was standing here, I think I didn't survive already because I would have had some arrows and maybe some hot oil or hot water that they were throwing over you or some rocks. So you always, that's one of the things as a, thank you, Lorraine, as a knight in that times, if you want to capture a castle, you always had to look to the top because there was always a way that someone was throwing a rock or sent something else on you. So before you were inside, you really needed to be very patient or to make sure that you had a lot of soldiers before you could get inside. So and um, just to give you a little feeling, so over here on all sides there are the walls, and outside is the city of Ghent. And literally, the city center is nearby. It's very nearby. So it was built next to the old city center. Later, we will also see some overview over the city. So you can imagine that if you were living over here in Ghent, that it was quite impressive to see this castle over here. And yeah, most of the counts were not the most nice people. So they wanted to show, of course, that they were powerful. Okay, and I'm getting inside over here, and hopefully I have everywhere reception. And here we have one of the first halls. There's still a chair over there. There was probably someone was sitting over there. This is of course in the cellars of the castle. So these type of rooms were only used for soldiers, so not for the count himself. That's of course a lot higher in the building. But it's yeah, and this Gravensteen Castle, it has been here since 1180, and during the years there have been several functions. So the first years, it was mainly the place where the count and his wife, the countess, were living. The first 150 to 200 years, and then shortly after that, and thank you, Yolanda, for sharing some more information. But the years after that, from 1350 until the 18th centuries, or for about 400 years, this was in use as a prison, as a famous prison of Ghent, and not only a prison, also a place where they were. There was not only the prison, also the court, and the place where they were torturing people. So hundreds, maybe even thousands of people have been tortured inside these walls. So there can be some ghosts, maybe some. So let's Grabenstein, I think, Yolanda. Grabenstein, if I'm right in my best German. But in Dutch, it's a Gravensteen. Okay, I want to go up because to see some more of the castle, we have to go up. So let's see if they let us up. So we have some small hallway over here, and it's a very lovely morning to talk about torturing. Yes. Okay, are you ready to go inside? It's getting dark, a little darker. There's a door over here. This looks locked, so I have to get higher. No, how far do we have to go? There's some little. There's now glass in. Originally, of course, it was not glass. It's not very friendly for wheelchairs, of course. Okay. Next room. You ready to get inside? Okay, and we are here in one of the places where the people in the castle over here were actually living. So there are small seats here on the side. Look at that. So next to the window, you can open the windows and then sit over there. And over here, these rooms, it's there's one thing that's quite unique, because when they were starting to build these castles, and here in Belgium, it's now a beautiful day, but in wintertime it can be quite cold. So imagine over here, it's freezing. So around the 9th and the 10th century, they were starting to build fireplaces. But the first fireplaces were looking a little like this, just to give you a feeling of an old fireplace. So just make a hole in the ceiling of your castle. But yeah, because otherwise you have all the smoke inside. So they were making a very big hole. But you can imagine, then because of that hole, there was a lot of rain coming inside. And not only rain, also the warmth was getting away very easily. So we had to find a solution for that problem. So one of the first things, one of the first places here in Belgium, one of the first castles, they invited the chimney. So as we can see over here, a very old-fashioned chimney that was a little easier, so you could have a little more comfortable, comfortable life. And just to sit like this and not have the wind and the rain inside anymore. And yes, the stained glass windows are quite beautiful. I completely agree to that. Oh, look at this. These ones are from later, by the way. So in the original castle, they didn't have these stained glass windows yet. So that's from a later restoration. Originally, that's also if I'm gonna sit here next to in one of these little seats, for example, over here. So originally they didn't have these that stained glass, so they could just uh, open both sides and then had the light and of course the wind sitting inside. So it's quite romantic to sit over here. You can look into the eyes of someone very deep. So and they had several of these because you can maybe imagine that in a castle like this there were a lot of people, a lot of knights, but not only knights, also a lot of people in working in the kitchens, cleaning, everything. And here in the castle, don't sit on the countess. No, I'm not planning to do that. But also here they have a little, they're showing some of the, um, look at this is beautiful. I'm now searching for the name, how it's in English. I immediately have the Dutch name. I'm sorry. That's well prepared, Stefan. So, uh, but at least you can see it's made out of the armor. Yeah, thank you. The armor made out of pieces of steel. And such armors of the knights were used over here. And you can maybe imagine how heavy this was. So, and the one over here is quite a simple one. It's not that beautiful, but it's most of these armor were always exactly made on your size, because you can maybe imagine if you are sitting on your horse, then you don't then you really want that it fits completely. So there can no holes where there can go armors inside or something like that. So and the more simpler one were these chainmails. So you can see with all these little rings of steel, but against the sword that was not working very well. So they had to, and they also had to wear something under this, because you can imagine. Also, this was several kilograms hanging on your shoulders. So you really needed something under it, a t-shirt, yeah, something like that. You needed the t-shirt for sure. And not only the armor is they place over here, but also some of the weapons they used. And look at this. This is doesn't even fit. Look how big this sword is. I have to be a little careful. It's more than 2 meters, so it's a lot taller. So 6 feet, I think, no, more than 6 feet high. And it's a sword that you have to use with two hands. You can maybe imagine that with two hands. And the knights were using that when they were sitting on their horses, so they could reach the spikes that were used by the soldiers, or by the soldiers that were just running next to them, or coming together to them. So and this also this, yeah, you can imagine you use it with the two hands. So a sword like this could be 25 kilograms, only the sword. So a very long one. And it was just as a protection against the pikes, for example, that were placed over here. So the normal soldiers were using these type of weapons, and then the knights on their horses were using their long swords. So, but I'm going to the next room because there is a lot more to see in the castle. So let's go again to the next level. Oh, it's a high one. Look at this. Really feels like I'm getting back in time. The music is even making it spooky for myself. And then you have every time these kind of doors on all sides. But we're going to the top. Some little light is coming. Of course, this was originally not for light, but more to protect yourself so you could shoot an arrow. I didn't feel anything tapping yet. But yeah, it's not so busy anymore in the castle. But I think over here we will see some people. We made it to the roof terrace. Made it to the roof terrace on the top of the castle. We can see the flag of Ghent and the flag of the castle just above the castle. And of course this was the top. So here is the place where the soldiers were standing. Now this is still the inner court that we see over here. So if you manage to get inside, this was one of the places where I was standing before. If you manage to get inside, then you could still get a rock on your head by using these shafts. But it's also a beautiful view, and that's what I'm going to show you. A beautiful view over the city of Ghent. And I'm going to go here to the highest part to give you a better overview. And this is for the postcards. Let's see. Okay, I'm not big enough, so maybe this is the best place for me. Okay, I want to show you. We're looking now over the city center of Ghent. Okay, we see some modern cranes, but you can, I think, completely understand how beautiful the city is and how far you can see from over here. So you're looking literally, so the Count in his time, Philip from Alsace, he was just standing here to look over his people. And we see in the middle the river, one of the rivers, the Scheldt River, where where the city became famous. And I also want to point you out because if I'm going a little lower, we can see the little courtyard next to here. We can see there are a lot of people because it's a beautiful day. And on the courtyard in the right corner, there is the fish market, the entrance to the fish market. And there's also something that we can only see from over here. There's one piece of art, and I think I can. Can I zoom in? Yeah, I can zoom in. Hopefully, I can zoom out later now. But do you see over there? There's a piece of art from Jan van Eyck, the famous painter from Ghent, and that is painted over there on one of these houses, and we can only see this from the castle over here. Oh, and now I cannot zoom back anymore. What's that? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Come on. Okay, I'm now stuck in a zoomed in image, so sorry for that. Maybe if I'm changing the screen, I'm still there. Let me see. Yeah, that works. Just change the screen. But this is beautiful, and you can see that Ghent was a big city and still a big city. After Bruges, it was one of the biggest in the start of the Middle Ages. It was after Bruges the biggest city in this part of the world. So and used a lot for trade, really a lot for trade. Okay, I'm getting to the other side. We see more of the city nowadays. Ghent has almost 600,000 inhabitants, or over 500,000 at least. So, and it's of course a beautiful city with a beautiful city center and not very damaged. Okay, we're going further into the castle because there is more to see. And I want to show you some more, of course. So, are you ready to get inside again? We're taking this one over here, saying goodbye to Ghent. Bye bye. And we're getting inside. Oh, it's quite steep. And imagine that you have to walk up here with your heavy armor. Because even over here, of course, you could get caught by an arrow. So you're always wearing something to protect yourself. 20, 30 kilograms extra. And then all your arrows and everything. Oh, it's some long stairs. I have to be a little careful. Oh, some light. A very modern window over here. Oh, we keep on going down and down and down. Will this ever end? You can imagine I've done this already 2 times today. So, okay, where we are right now. Oh, there's an entrance door over there. Beautiful door again, by the way. We have to go here. Oh, here we were before. We're going to another room. The next room. A little side room. And what they say, what they think, is that this over here was one of the rooms of the court where they were deciding what to do with criminals. So imagine that the judges were sitting over here and they were deciding what to do with the criminals. And for a long time in the uh, in the Middle Ages over here, they had some very literal punishments. So that meant at the moment that, for example, if you were talking badly about someone, what was the punishment then? Just to give you an example, then the punishment is that they were getting like something through your tongue, or maybe even remove your tongue completely. So, but it was also if you were stealing, the moment that you're stealing, then they cut off your hand, of course. And there are also examples over here in Ghent from people that were that were trying to make their own money by cutting pieces of the old money. So, and what they were doing with these people, okay, you love silver, then we will cook you in a big pot of silver. That's a good punishment for you. So, it was a very literal way, so you could easily see uh, based on the person what kind of crime they did, and this was until the 1800s, until the invention of the guillotine, and of course the guillotine I think we all know That was an easier way of killing people. So the French decided, let's start using the guillotine just for a lot of the crimes. It's easier, and people will not will be killed immediately. So, but over here they think that the judges were talking about uh, what kind of punishment would be given to the criminals. Getting to the next place. And over here we have, you can see a beautiful harp. And this was the room of the countess. So she was staying over here, had her own sort of luxury room next to the room of the count. And we can see there's still one of her old harps standing over here. And she could play this at the fireplace, just at the days that the count was going to war, because that was what he was doing in this, what they were doing in their times, and she had to stay inside, of course, with a lot of people helping her while playing her beautiful harp. So let me get you a little more nearby. I'm not musical at all. You immediately see some extra sound. And then the count himself, he had, of course, also his room. And we can see that his room is about, well, what is it, 5 times as big. I mean, in the time of building of this castle, they were not thinking yet about equal rights. That's really from later. So he had a bigger room, but yeah, it's not completely fair if you imagine that a count in these times, they were not at home a lot, so there were a lot going to war, to fight against other countries, against other counts. So, but at the time he was home, he had here his own beautiful room, and as you can see again with the chimney, and it's quite luxury for the compared to the rest of the castle, or to the rooms that were used for helpers, for example, and for all the staff that was working for them. And I also love these big doors that are still over here, made of heavy wood with some steel. You can still open and close them. Okay. Where are we going now? Oh, we have to go up or down. No, down again. So let's go down again. Where we were with the music. I hope you still can all see this, and that I still have reception. Oh, the light is flickering. Did you see that? I don't know. We don't see it right now. Really going down a lot. Oh yeah, I know it already. Next room. Next room. I hope you can still see me. There was a little problem from I lost my reception just for some seconds. So I hope you can still hear me. But over here is also an interesting place, because we can see the floor over here, and it's max one person. But if I'm going there, let me show you how this looks. There's a very deep hole. I think it's about 7-8 meters deeper under there. People throw coins in there nowadays. But originally this was not to throw coins. this was to throw your biggest enemies. So they were bringing enemies over here, and as a form of torturing, they were just throwing them inside over there. So this was a very basic prison cell. And then most of the time it was not one person, but a lot of persons, a lot of people, and then they were just sometimes throwing some food to them to make sure that they were surviving. And they placed here uh, an interesting illustration of how that looked. So we see the rabbit over there, the rabbit over there with a stick and with the bread. Oh, and then over here at the bottom, you can see that there were a lot of people just thrown inside. And you can imagine if you were thrown inside, that a lot of them were breaking their legs and all kind of other things. And then they just had to hope that sometimes someone was giving them some food. So, and there are stories of people that had to stay there for months, literally months. Can you imagine? Next to the rats, to insects, everything. So, okay, let's get to the next hallway. It's beautiful here. It's still in a very good state. Look at the pillars. So as a prison, of course, the criminals were first placed over here, and then a lot of them were tortured. And the first 200 years, they were doing that here on the courtyard. So the whole castle could see it, could see how they were torturing people over here on the courtyard. So and there were a lot of different methods to do. So like getting your stretching your body with 4 horses. So one horse at one arm, two every leg and every arm, one horse, and then in the end, of course, if the horses are starting to walk all four together, then in the end you will break in 4 pieces. So that was one of the methods. But there were also methods by um, boiling them in water, but also in the silver sometimes. But also they were really bringing you into the fire, knocking you the whole time, shooting a lot of arrows on you, name it, and they were doing it over here. And what they were doing at the end, they were trying to make sure that the heads were still in a good state. Because what they were doing at the end, so make sure that you are torturing and killing someone in the end, a painful death, a very painful death, but make sure that the head is still good, because then you can get the head on a spike and just show it above the walls of the castle, so the whole city could see, okay, these persons did something very wrong. So literally the whole city could see that. So that was one of the ways over here. So and it was the first 200 years. Later on, they decided, okay, let's also do the torturing itself in public. So the little courtyard next to the castle was used for that. Wait. Oh, I now see. I thought I missed all your comments, but I just swiped it myself. Okay, I'm gonna walk over the walls. And thank you, Sue, for joining for all this time. And then here at the side, it's also interesting. So the protection was not only the walls. Look at this. This is also, by the way, later this evening I will kayak over here. But the castle for 75% is surrounded by, no, for 50% is surrounded by water. So for most part, if you were coming from out of the city, you first had to go over the water and then try to climb the walls while people were throwing rocks and arrows and hot water on you. And so you can maybe imagine how tough it was to capture this castle. So in the end, the castle over here has only been captured one time. And for that one time, we have to go to a lot later time when Ghent was already a student city. A student city, and in the time that it was a student, it is already for a long time a student city. But in the 60s, what happened over here? The beer prices were getting up. Were getting up very fast. So what happened is that about 100 students in the nighttime were getting into the castle, locking themselves up, and making sure that they were locking all the doors from the outside. And the next day, exactly in the 50s, 1949, the next day, they were saying like, okay, I said 60s, no, it's 50s. You're right. Sometimes these years are gonna go around in my brain. Um, no, but they said like, okay, we only wanna go out if the government over here makes sure that the beer prices will go down again. And of course, there was police that was trying to get inside, and they were throwing apples and eggs and all that kind of things on the on the police. So it was really a very interesting way. And after some days, the government decided to make sure that the price of beer were not rising anymore. And then they said, okay, we get out of the castle again. And then also something very new. And we have to go, I'm going back now to the 12th century. In the 12th century, look at this, what we have over here. We have the toilets. So, and the toilets were over here on the side. So, look at this. We have this beautiful seat, really a beautiful seat. And you even have a little window, so it's not so stinky at all. And then there's a very big hole, and I can show you. There's a big hole. And then at the end, completely downstairs, I don't know if you can see that. I'm going now in the hole a little. There's water. There's the water of the river over there. So you could just easily sit over here, do your thing, a number one or a number two, and it was falling in the water. And the interesting thing is, this is on the corner of the city. So the whole city could see when the count was going to the toilet. And also one interesting thing is that it was a very social toilet. Because look at this. There's another one here at the other side. So you could poop together over here. So it was very very interesting. And there are stories that the people in Ghent were waiting outside to see when the count was going to the toilet. And then of course you saw things dropping down, and then people were shouting at the moment that they were seeing something dropping in the river. But for that time, it was a very modern toilet. You can maybe imagine that. So, okay, I'm going. Do I have to duck? I don't know where. Oh, you heard the duck. Yeah, there are duck over here, and also just to give you the feeling, like this is, you now can see people sitting. So imagine in the old days that the people in Ghent over here were looking. Let me go outside. The people over here were looking to see when the count was pooping, and then yeah, giving applause if there was something dropping in the water. Okay, let's go inside again. Don't let my gimbal fall. Okay, so it's if you look at the shape of the castle, it's like almost completely round. So and from all the sides, very heavily protected. And let me get to the next room. Yeah. Catherine is saying no TV or Netflix back in the time. So yeah, that was of course. And I mean, nowadays a lot of people love to see Game of Thrones, and in Game of Thrones they show these old ways of torturing people and of killing people sometimes. And yeah, that literally happened over here. And it was for a lot of people, if there was a public torturing or a public killing, then the whole city was coming to look. Everyone was coming to look to see and to shout at people and to get. It was a little horrific, but of course now we're just seeing it on television. But in these days, it was the norm. So just go in the weekend with your kids to see a public torturing of someone. And now we have crap TV programs. Yes, look at this. The side of the castle. It's in such a good state still. That's with all these stones. Okay, I'm getting inside over here in the next room, and I will go immediately to the next room. If there are people over here, because this is a tiny one again. Because there's another beautiful little room. Look at this. Imagine. So over here we see at the end we see a cross, and this cross is because the Philip from Alsace, the count who decided to build the Gravensteen Castle, he got on a crusade, and on his crusade to what we now call Israel, to the Holy Land, he was really inspired by these beautiful crosses. So when he came back, he wanted a place in his castle with the same shape. And you may be wondering, why were people doing these crusades? That was because not because they wanted to fight. It was one of the main reasons is that the Pope in these times were asking people to do a crusade to fight the Arabs, to do these crusades, and in return, if you were doing that, then all your sins would be relieved. So all your sins would be gone. So you can imagine that even famous people like kings and knights, they all wanted to do these crusades because they could do everything they wanted. So killing, torturing, everything you can think of was allowed, because after your crusade, everything you had a clean slate again. That was one, and the second thing is that it also gave you um, gave you for the rest of your life, you had you could live forever, so in paradise. So that was the second thing that was promised. Look at this. It's still amazing to see all this. And let me try to get you to the last room that I want to show you, because we saw some torturing things, but there's more to see. So, and hopefully I have reception over there. It was, when I was checking it was like, oh, it's just on, just enough, because we have to go down. And of course, you can imagine that um, uh, these walls are quite thick. So it sometimes you have some problems with the reception. We're now in the front of the castle again, but let me get you to the last room. Have to watch my feet because it's all stone. Okay, are you ready to get into the dark? We're again on the public execution place. We're going down here. To one of the places where they were actually torturing people. It's immediately, if you're coming inside here, it's a little damp, it's colder. You can feel that, you can imagine that they were using this also for as a wine cellar. But here behind, you can see several of the techniques they used. I think I don't even have to tell you exactly where they were using all these things for. For example, the table over here, I was telling you the horses to stretch you, but they also had a table for that to stretch you every time just an inch and an inch more and an inch more, and just to let you talk. Let you talk, and if you are not talking, okay, then we stretch you another inch and another inch. So you can imagine that after a while, how painful that should have been. I lost my signal just for. I'm still there. And the corkscrew wasn't for opening the wine. No, for sure not. You see a lot of hammers, chains, a lot of things with spikes to stretch you, to do all kind of very bad things. So I think I'm going out. The door can still be closed. So wait. Imagine the door's closed. Stick over here in this place. It's cold in the winter. And then all this torturing. Unbelievable. I'm so happy that I'm living in these centuries, in the time that we don't do this anymore. Yeah, let's go out again. It's even creepy for myself. Yeah, and it's still a beautiful day. That's the good thing. Thinking about all the lives, all the blood that spilled over here in this castle, and the cruelty of several counts who lived here and who were terrorizing not only their enemies, but also, and that's one of the things people have a lot of times the feeling that you uh, that it's against enemies. So, but a lot of these instruments were used against their own people, and that's mainly because the counts in these times and the kings in these times, they want to have a lot of uh, a lot of money, really a lot of money for their war. So they were asking taxes from their inhabitants. So you can maybe imagine how uh, um, that people were scared for that, and by these kind of techniques, they were making sure that everyone was that that everyone was paying their taxes, paying their debts. So okay, so I see that I already was 45 minutes. It's unbelievable. I hope you could see the whole thing, because I think I lost reception two times very shortly, but it was back again, and I still see 30 people that wanted to see the whole castle with me. I survived. I didn't see a lot of ghosts. Only the light was flickering two times. So I think I can still go outside over here, so I'm not cold. I want to thank you for joining today. And if you like this Facebook Live, you can always rewatch it, because it's captured, or I filmed it completely. But you can really help me keep on doing these things buying by buying me a coffee. Thank you, Catherine, for sharing the link again. And I know it was a glitchy reception, but I think that's also a little uh, what fits here. It fits here to have a glitchy reception, and sometimes there's, yeah, I think that was a ghost, something like that. So thank you for joining today. I will do another tour in starting in 20 minutes. So I'm gonna prepare, and I think I'm gonna start again on the top if I can still get there. So and thank you again for joining, and I hope to see you again in one of the other tours. Bye bye from the Gravensteen Castle in